Tonight, we open another page of the Black Salt Ledger. In December of 1872, a perfectly seaworthy ship was found drifting alone in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Her sails were still set. Her cargo sat untouched in the hold. 6 months of food and water were stored below, and the crew's belongings lay just as they'd left them. There was no storm damage, no sign of a struggle, no blood. But every soul who had sailed her, 10 people, including the captain, his wife, and their 2-year-old daughter, was gone. No bodies, no boats coming back, no answer. More than 150 years later, we still don't know where they went. She was a brigantine, a small, 2-masted merchant ship, the kind that carried the world's cargo in the Age of Sail. She'd been built in Nova Scotia 11 years earlier under a different name, and after a string of hard luck and a change of owners, she'd been rechristened the Mary Celeste. There was nothing cursed about her, whatever the legends would later say. She was a working vessel, sound and unremarkable, right up until the morning she became the most famous ghost ship in history. Her master was Benjamin Briggs. 37 years old, experienced, respected, and by every account a careful, sober man who did not take foolish risks. This matters because Briggs did something that morning that careful men do not do lightly. He had brought his family aboard. His wife, Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. A man does not abandon a sound ship, and he certainly does not put his wife and his infant daughter into a small open boat on the open Atlantic, unless he believes, in that moment, that staying aboard will kill them. On the 7th of November, 1872, the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor bound for Genoa in Italy. In her hold were 1,700 barrels of raw industrial alcohol, denatured spirit meant for fortifying wine, not for drinking. 10 people sailed with her: Briggs, his wife and child, and 7 crew, hand-picked and trusted. It was an ordinary cargo run on an ordinary route. For the first 2 weeks, by the record she left behind, it was an ordinary voyage. Almost a month later, on the 4th of December, another ship, the Dei Gratia, was crossing the same waters, some 400 miles off the Azores. Her captain, David Morehouse, spotted a vessel ahead, moving strangely. She was yawing, drifting off her heading, sails trimmed wrong, no one correcting her. They hailed her. Nothing answered. They watched her for 2 hours. Still nothing. And so, they lowered a boat, and they went aboard. What they found made no sense. The Mary Celeste was not wrecked. She was not sinking. She was seaworthy. Sails partly set. Hull sound, with months of provisions still stored below. There was water in the hold, perhaps 3.5 feet of it, enough to frighten a sailor, but far from enough to sink her. One of her pumps had been taken apart, and there was not one living person anywhere aboard. This is the detail that has haunted the case ever since. Nothing had been taken. The cargo was almost entirely intact. The crew's belongings were still in their quarters. Their clothes, their boots, their oilskins. Their pipes were left behind, and a sailor of that age did not willingly leave his pipe. There was no blood, no sign of a fight, no sign of robbery. Whatever happened, it was not a raid, and it was not a brawl. It was something else. But some things were gone. The ship's single lifeboat, a small yawl that had been stowed over the main hatch, had been launched, and with it had gone the captain's navigation instruments, the sextant, the chronometer, the ship's papers. The mate's logbook, though, remained, and its final entry was dated the 25th of November, placing the ship near the island of Santa Maria. That was 9 days before she was found. For more than a week, the Mary Celeste had been sailing the Atlantic entirely alone. Put those 2 facts together, and the shape of that morning changes. The people aboard did not vanish into thin air, and they were not dragged off by force. They left, on purpose and in order. They had time to lower the boat. They had the presence of mind to take the instruments a navigator would need to find land. This was not panic without thought. This was a decision. Get off this ship now. And they believed, whatever the reason, that the small boat was safer than the sound one beneath their feet. The Dei Gratia's men sailed the Mary Celeste into Gibraltar to claim her as salvage, and there, the mystery became a trial. The investigating official, a man named Flood, was certain he was looking at a crime. He searched the ship for proof of murder or mutiny or fraud. He examined marks on the bow. He examined a stained sword found below. He suspected the rescuers themselves, and after weeks of inquiry, he found nothing. No evidence of foul play. The salvage was eventually paid, but under a cloud of suspicion that never quite lifted, because no one could say what had actually happened. So, let us be honest about what the evidence does, not support. It was not piracy. Pirates take cargo and valuables, and here both were left untouched. It was not mutiny. The crew were trusted men, nothing was looted, and there was no violence. And it was not the sea monster of legend that came later from a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle, whose fictional story, 12 years afterward, invented survivors and horrors that never existed, and even misspelled her name. The myth of the Mary Celeste is just that, a myth. The real case is stranger because it is real. The leading explanation today begins in the hold. Of the 1,700 barrels, 9 were later found empty, and those 9 were made of a more porous oak. In the cold of the North Atlantic, then a warming alcohol vapor could have leaked and pooled. A sudden venting, a frightening rush of fumes, or a small pressure release that sounded and felt like the beginning of an explosion may have convinced Briggs that his ship, full of spirit, was about to blow apart beneath his family. So he did the careful thing for a man who believed that. He got everyone into the yawl, tethered it to the ship by a long line, and waited at a safe distance for the danger to pass. There are other readings, and they are not foolish. A waterspout passing over the ship could explain the water in the hold and the dismantled pump, its sudden drop in pressure forcing water up, and a faulty pump making the crew believe she was flooding far faster than she was. A bad chronometer could have left Briggs unsure of his positions near Santa Maria, abandoning a sound ship for what he wrongly thought was nearby land. In every version, the ending is the same. The line to the yawl parts in a rising sea. The Mary Celeste sails on without them, and the little boat, with 10 people in it, is never seen again. It is worth slowing down here, the way this ledger always does. Every one of those theories has a hole in it. No one heard an explosion. No spout was recorded. The log simply stops, with no note of alarm. The truth is that we are reading the silence of a ship, and silence can be made to say almost anything. The honest position is not that we have solved it. It is that we have a sound vessel, abandoned in good order by experienced people who had every reason to stay, and we do not finally know what they saw. So this is what the record holds. A good ship, found whole and sailing herself across an empty ocean. 10 people, among them a child, not yet 3, who climbed down into a small boat and pushed off into the Atlantic and were never found. No wreck, no bodies, no goodbye. Only a logbook that ends mid-voyage, and a question the sea has kept for more than 150 years. What frightened them so badly that the open ocean seemed safer than the deck beneath their feet? The ledger doesn't close a file like this. It keeps it, beside the others, the ones still waiting for an answer that may never come. The sea kept its silence. Our next file keeps a different kind. Somewhere in a library sits a book 600 years old, filled cover to cover with flowing, confident handwriting, in a script that exists nowhere else on Earth, in a language no one has ever been able to read. The finest codebreakers of the modern age have tried. Every one of them has failed. Another file, already open. Follow the ledger and we'll turn the page together.